Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. We're going to stick with the Leon Black story this morning, and we're going to add a little more context to what we talked about last night. After the New York Times article dropped, Leon Black responded to what was in the article and sent out an email to his investors. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, his response and what he had to say to the people who really are the only ones that he has to answer to, right? So when you're a rich guy like this, there really aren't too many people you're answering to. But when it comes to investors or shareholders, at the very least, you have to answer to them. And if you're going to cost them money, well, those answers, they better be good, because this isn't about friendship when it comes to stuff like this, right? We're talking about billionaires, millionaires, etc., etc. It's all about the money for them. And if Leon Black and the cloud because of Jeffrey Epstein and the relationship that they had that is hanging over him is going to cause these people to lose money or not make it hand over fist, well, they're going to be none too excited about that situation. So tonight we got an article from Reuters, and then after we read this article, we're going to read the actual email that Leon Black sent out. So like I said, this is from Reuters, and the headline: Apollo CEO Black says he regrets ties to Epstein, denies any wrongdoing. This article was authored by Chibuki Ogu and Lawrence Delavine. So he says he regrets his ties to Epstein, but he denies any wrongdoing. And again, I made that pretty clear every time I've ever talked about this guy and these other bankers. I'm not saying that these dudes were involved in the actual trafficking part of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise. I'm not saying that they were a part of any abuse, unless one of the survivors comes out and says differently. What I am saying, though, is that they most certainly enabled Jeffrey Epstein, and it certainly looks like they were engaged in some sort of financial douchebaggery together as well. Now, I don't have that direct evidence to tie that up in a nice little bow for everybody, but I can point to the circumstantial evidence, and, when it comes down to it, like I said previously, I'm a big believer in Occam's razor, right? So, here we are. Apollo Global Management Incorporated chief executive Leon Black told the buyout firm's investors on Monday that he regretted having had ties to the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, but denied any wrongdoing or inappropriate conduct related to his business and social relationship with Epstein. So again, that's the excuse they'll all use, right? Well, I didn't know what he was up to. I didn't know this dude was such a pervert. I didn't know that he was involved in a child sex trafficking ring. I didn't know that he was trafficking women. And that's the tired and used excuse that these people have used ever since Epstein was arrested the first time around. And guess what? Unfortunately, it's been okay. People have accepted it. The legacy media has accepted it. Nobody has really challenged these people on this stuff. And whenever something is brought up, well, they want to run away from it as fast and as far as they can, right? No comment, or they'll give you some sort of canned comment, or like in this instance, they'll play down their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, even though all of the evidence that we have seen points to something completely different. I mean, we're not talking about $5 here, folks, all right? We're not talking about $100 in a poker game. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about $50 to $75 million. That's not the kind of money you give an acquaintance. That's not the kind of money you're just throwing around just because. Of all the financial advisors, all of the charitable douchebags running around in so-called polite society, Jeffrey Epstein was the only one that Leon Black could come up with? Stop it. Black wrote to the firm's investors after the New York Times reported on Monday that he wired between $50 million and $75 million to Epstein as far back as 2008. And remember, it wasn't just in 2008, right? The relationship spanned a lot longer than that, much longer, from the time where Epstein was convicted to the time that they supposedly stopped being friends. So you mean in that whole entire time, Black had never heard the rumors of what Jeffrey Epstein truly was? Black had never heard the rumors or had never heard about the non-prosecution agreement? Not one word, huh? You know, for people that run around and want us to believe that they're so smart, they're pretty damn stupid, aren't they? Reuters could not determine how long Black continued to wire money. Epstein, who was charged by federal prosecutors with sex trafficking last year, committed suicide in his New York City jail cell in August 2019, before his trial, allegedly. And as far as determining how long Black continued to wire money, it's rather obvious. They were homies all the way up till that second arrest. And of course, it's always the same with these people, right? Oh, he stole from me. Or there was some financial miscalculations on my part. Or my decision-making was bad. Never any kind of real self-reflection, right? Never really saying and taking responsibility for the fact that you weren't just a business. Look, if you were just a business associate with this guy, then that's one thing, right? But this is a whole different matter. Business associates aren't the ones getting invited to that island. Epstein's inner circle and those that he wants to get caught up in his blackmail game, those are the people that are being invited to the island. So my question for Leon Black is, which one are you, sir? While Black's business ties to Epstein were already known, the Times story outlined previously unreported payments as well as socializing between the two financiers. Well, the one scumbag financier at the very least, which would be Black, and then the pedophile financier, which would be Epstein. You guys notice a trend yet with these so-called financiers? It's like socialites. No wonder they go together so well. Two scummy-ass institutions, two scummy-ass parts of society. Financier, I'm a financier, ha 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 ha. Biff, go get the car, we're going to the golf tournament. Give me a break with these people. I mean, I'm sickened by them. The whole financier and socialite and all of it needs to be crushed under heel. These people truly believe that they are better than the rest of us. I was completely unaware of and continue to be appalled by the reprehensible conduct that surfaced at the end of 2018 and led to the federal criminal charges brought against Mr. Epstein. Black wrote to Apollo Fund investors in a letter seen by Reuters. Now remember, we're going to read that letter as well in its entirety as soon as we're done with this article. But it's bull. Look, it's absolute bullshit. I was completely unaware of and continue to be appalled by the reprehensible conduct that surfaced at the end of 2018, as if it just surfaced in 2018. I mean, a monkey with learning disabilities could Google and figure out that Jeffrey Epstein was a scumbag. You mean to tell me Mr. Hotshot Leon Black, Mr. Apollo effing Global himself, has no idea what Jeffrey Epstein is? And if that's the case, and you're an investor out there, why would you put one single dollar into anything that this guy's involved with? If he's too stupid to use a search engine, why would I let him safeguard my money? An Apollo spokeswoman said that Black acted in a personal capacity and that the private equity firm had not done any business with Epstein. Apollo shares dropped 5.7% on Monday to close at $43.90. I love it. Smack 'em right in the old pocketbook. Oh, you want it to hurt? It's like kicking this guy in the fruits when you blast him in the pocketbook, folks. Take a couple of bucks out of this guy's pocket, forget it. Forget it. That and shame are the two things that move the needle with these people. That is it. That is all. And when I say shame, it's not that they feel shame. I'm talking about shame in the eye of the commoner, right? The plebe, you and I. Because what that does is they're no longer invited into their so-called polite society anymore, and they become persona non grata, like we're seeing now in the wake of Epstein's death and Maxwell's arrest. It went from everybody wanting to take a picture with those two, everybody wanting to hang out with those two, to everybody not knowing who they were. It sure is one large ass case of amnesia. Black said in a letter that Epstein provided professional services to his family partnership and related family entities involving estate planning, tax, and philanthropic advice. So again, I ask you, Leon Black, one of the richest, most powerful men in the world, needs a nobody like Jeffrey Epstein for services like family partnership and family entities, real estate planning, estate planning, tax, and philanthropic advice? You mean to tell me that Leon Black didn't have an accountant on the team? He didn't have a personal accountant? Jeffrey Epstein was the guy, huh? That's who you turn to. Mr. Pedophile Abuser himself. He was that good with numbers, huh? What was the real reason you were spending so much time with him, Mr. Black? What was the real reason there was so much money moving around, Mr. Black? Black also said he met Epstein from time to time at his New York City townhouse and also donated money to charitable organizations he did not identify that were affiliated with the late financier. Can we quit calling him that, Reuters, please? Pedophile. What do you think? His estate's going to sue you? Khan and Indike are going to sue you? They got their own problems. And furthermore, what would they sue you for? It's the truth. So let's stop calling him a financier in these articles, okay? And let's call him what he is. Federal prosecutors and lawyers have sued Epstein's more than $630 million estate to obtain compensation for the young women and girls he allegedly abused and trafficked. And as to the charities, those are the only charities in existence that Mr. Black can donate to? How about you just walk around on the streets incognito with stacks of dough and pass it out to people on the streets? Nah, you can't do that, right? Because there's no way for you to profit that way. There's no way for you to launder money that way. There's no way for you to virtue signal to the rest of the world about how great you are as you pass out peanuts to the rest of us. It's an absolute joke. I mean, these people are an absolute joke with their so-called charitable giving. Give me a break, all right? All about your image, all about to make sure that image is rebuilt, and let's not forget about the tax loopholes. Let's not forget about the write-offs. These people are seriously mentally disturbed. In January, U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General Denise George sued the estate, seeking claims on behalf of victims he raped and trafficked on a private Caribbean island. Black said in the letter he intends to cooperate with the U.S. Virgin Islands inquiry and any other investigation. So another one, he says, oh yeah, I'm willing to talk to whoever. I'm down with the investigation, all right? I'm going to cooperate, just like the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. And we see how that's turned out. We see that moron hasn't given 3 seconds of his time to the FBI for them to question him. And it'll probably be the same here with Black. he'll probably try and maneuver his way out of it. He'll probably make it a situation where, I'll give a written statement, and they'll probably be okay with it because, he's so rich and all. That's all that really matters, is how rich he is, how much money he has, and how he can manipulate the system and maneuver behind the scenes using loopholes. How many times do we talk about that, huh? All the loopholes, all of the technicalities. That is how these people are able to operate. There is only one way to get rid of it. There is only one way to fix it. And that is to vote out every single one of these incumbents who has been party to it. And then the people that we do send to Washington, D.C., we have to hold them accountable and make sure that they get rid of these technicalities, that they get rid of these loopholes, and that we somehow, some way, crush the two-tiered justice system. All right, so here's the letter that Leon Black wrote to the investors. October 12th, 2020. Dear limited partner, in July 2019, I wrote to you to address my relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, given the intense media coverage at the time. As I stated then, there is nothing more important to Apollo, and to me personally, than our relationship with our investors and limited partners in the funds we manage. Earlier today, the New York Times published a story describing my relationship with Mr. Epstein. I am writing again to make sure that you have all of the relevant information. So it's that important, right? And that much of it hits home that he thought that it was time for him to go ahead and jump in and write this letter because he was trying to cut this off at the pass, right? He doesn't want this to blow up any more than it has. He doesn't want this to become more of a serious situation than it already has and continue to grow and metastasize. He wants to make sure that he gets out in front of this. He wants to make sure that he's controlling the narrative. First, I want to reemphasize certain important facts from my prior letter. Apollo never did any business with Mr. Epstein at any point in time. Neither Mr. Epstein nor any company controlled by him ever invested in any funds managed by Apollo. So what he's trying to do here is distance Apollo from this situation and take full responsibility personally, but not put the responsibility at Apollo's feet. Shrewd attempt, but very transparent. For a period of 6 years, Mr. Epstein provided professional services to my family partnership and related family entities involving estate planning, tax and philanthropic advice. No other Apollo employees ever engaged Mr. Epstein or used his professional services. On a few occasions, I donated money to certain charitable organizations with which Mr. Epstein was affiliated, and he made contributions to certain charitable organizations that are meaningful to me. Lastly, and most importantly, I was completely unaware and continue to be appalled by the reprehensible conduct that surfaced at the end of 2018 and led to federal criminal charges brought against Mr. Epstein. Such BS. You didn't know, huh? You had no idea. Yeah, no idea. And what, you guys were just trading charitable donations to each other's charities? You have more money than God, the both of you. Why don't you just donate to those charities yourself? Why do you got to drag Jeffrey Epstein into it? Why does Jeffrey Epstein have to drag you into it? What else is at play here? What are the underlying currents, my friends? None of the reporting in the recent New York Times article is inconsistent in any way with the information I shared with you over a year ago. As I previously stated, Mr. Epstein provided professional services to entities affiliated with my family regarding real estate planning, tax, and philanthropic endeavors. I have never tried to conceal these facts. It is true that I paid Mr. Epstein millions of dollars annually for his work, which he provided from 2012 to 2017. Yeah, that's nice. After he was a convicted sex offender, so you gave him millions of dollars so he could facilitate his crimes against these other girls. If I was one of these girls who was assaulted after 2012 when you were financing this asshole, I'd sue you too, you scumbag. It is also worth noting that all of Mr. Epstein's advice was vetted by leading auditors, law firms, and other professional advisors. So why bring him on board in the first place? If you were just going to vet his shit and pay him millions of dollars, why bring him on board in the first place? What were you really doing, Mr. Black? Importantly, there has never been allegations by anyone, including the New York Times, that I engaged in any wrongdoing or inappropriate conduct. The New York Times story reports instances in which I spent time with Mr. Epstein. For example, I traveled with Mr. Epstein to Boston to meet with several prominent Harvard professors as part of my family's philanthropic efforts. 2 of my children traveled with me and joined the meetings. Again, the children. Every single one of these guys that gets caught with their hand in the cookie jar, well, my kids were with me, or I was with the esteemed members of the Harvard Professor League. Yeah, right, esteemed members. They're all a bunch of pervert deviants, too. How about that? All of the ones that were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, anyway. I mean, the absolute and utter denials of these people of reality is just mind-numbing to me. On a separate occasion, my family and I made a short visit to Mr. Epstein's private island and had a picnic lunch with him while on a family holiday nearby. As the story notes, both instances were isolated, and time to time I also met Mr. Epstein at his townhouse in New York City because that is where he conducted business. Mr. Epstein did not have a separate professional office. No, he had a whole building full of them, though. You guys couldn't have had lunch at your office. You guys couldn't have had lunch at a restaurant. You had to go to the townhouse, huh? Did you get a massage ever, Mr. Black? Finally, the story reports that the U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General is seeking information from me and many others, including numerous large financial institutions such as J.P. Morgan, Citi, Wells Fargo, and BNP Paribas, all as third-party witnesses in a civil investigation of Mr. Epstein's business. I, of course, intend to cooperate fully with this and any other inquiry. So you see what he does there, right? He tries to low-key add all of those other financial institutions to make it look like, well, they're under questioning too, so how bad can it be? Well, Mr. Black, it can be bad. It's real bad, okay? We've seen the FinCEN files. We've read the Panama Papers. And we've lived with your predatory behavior our whole entire lives. Everything we do, from applying for a new loan for a car, to getting a credit card, or sending our children to college, you, the banksters, are involved, and you, the banksters, are preying upon the people. Over the past 3 decades, everyone at Apollo has worked tirelessly not only to achieve the best possible returns on behalf of our valued investors, but also to do so in a manner governed by certain core principles, integrity, decency, and adherence to the highest moral and ethical principles. I am extremely proud of everything we have accomplished over everything that we have accomplished over this time working closely with you. With the benefit of hindsight and knowing everything that has come to light about Mr. Epstein's despicable conduct more than 15 years ago, I deeply regret having any involvement with him. These reports, however, will not distract from the extraordinary work of our exceptional people at Apollo who wake up every morning focused on helping you accomplish your important missions. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact Stephanie Drescher at phone number. It's in the article, so if you want the phone number, click on the link in the article and you can get it there. The email, blah, 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 all of that is in the letter as well. Yeah, so that's the letter from Leon Black, folks, okay? This is what this guy thinks about the whole situation. Like it's just going to blow on over. Like it's just, a big misunderstanding. The fact that you gave a convicted sex offender $75 million, gave him the keys to the castle, and helped fund his criminal enterprise. Yeah, I think that people are a bit interested in you and Mr. Black and what you have going on. And I have to tell you, with all of that money moving one way and the other with Mr. Black and Jeffrey Epstein, you would have to think, if and when this becomes a RICO case, that Mr. Black might be getting another knock on his door. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, all of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. I'll be back later on for the Daily Drop, and we'll pick it back up then.